Like many things in my life, if it's just thing, it's uncool, but if it's thing Japan, well then you suddenly got my brief attention span. Persona is a series I got into near the end of my high school years. Thank God it happened then, because it would have been totally weird if I liked it now, huh? Unfortunately, I couldn't relate that well to the games since I went to an online school, but I do have vivid memories of my time in elementary and middle school, and the few things I do remember are that kids are needlessly cruel and all of my elementary teachers were weirdly power trippy, but that could have been my child self not melding well with authority figures, which is something I still do. Fun fact, but I'm 21 now and I still haven't signed the military draft, nor will I ever because that shit is cringe. In my defense though, they're supposed to mail it to me and they never did, so legally I'm in the clear. This topic came to me when I mistakenly browsed Persona Twitter for a time and came to the conclusion that I'm the smartest person in this community. At least the western portion of it. Whenever a new entry in a series is brought up, people always want to talk about the things they would like to see in said entry, and Persona is no different. The most common thing I see from people online, at least before I purged my social media, was that people want to see a Persona game but in an adult or college setting. Now, I can definitely see the appeal of a Persona game in such a setting. After all, it would be easier for myself to relate to, and I wouldn't have to feel weird about liking the barely legal girls. On the other hand, though, its school setting is a core part of what makes it Persona. Something that really grinds my gears is when people say a franchise is just the same thing over and over again, and yeah, that's kinda how those work. When I buy Call of Duty, I'm expecting Call of Duty. Yes, they can evolve on the formula by adding twists to story and gameplay, but I'm here for a specific thing only that franchise can provide, and if you stray too far from it, then it starts to no longer become the thing I came here for. This was something I briefly mentioned when talking about Space Marine 2, how people can crap on the Astartes as much as they want, but they are a major factor that makes 40k as interesting as it is, and when you take that away and try to make 40k but it's X or Y, you just start to lose me. It's also why Andor was lame, because it didn't have any space wizards or laser swords. Now, to be fair, this is just one aspect that makes Persona what it is. Persona isn't solely defined by its school setting. There are things like the dungeon crawling calendar system with its visual novel life sim mechanics and monster collecting / fusing that helps make Persona what it is, and the school aspect is just another part of that. With that being said though, I think the school setting is just as important as all the other pillars that make up Persona. Look back on the other games and wonder if the story would make the same sense if they were in an adult setting. 3 maybe, but the Phantom Thieves and their rebelling against adults that made their life hell could only work in a school / teenager setting. Now, chances are, if you're watching this, you probably live in the West and speak English. I imagine most of you are living in the States and with very few Europeans tuning in. And if you are European and watching this video, fuck you. It seems the general desire for an adult Persona game mainly comes from the West, and therein lies one of the core problems. Atlus is a Japanese company, meaning their main demographic is Japanese people. Yes, they do make sure to appeal to the West since we are another source of revenue for them. There's no reason not to include us. But when it comes to overall feedback and looking to see what the fans want from the next Persona game, they don't care nearly as much. I mean, just take a look at the character poll they did, which was taken from players in East Asia, I believe. The top 2 characters are Joker, which makes sense since the protagonist is literally me for real. So of course he's the best, and Makoto, who seems to be very popular in Japan. It makes sense as to why she got so much more attention in the spinoffs. Not that I'm complaining, since she's the best.
I want to be with you.
Let's fucking go!
Atlus do make an effort to include us. A lot of the marketing leading up to Reload involved the English cast quite a bit, but I'd say that was more of an exception to the rule. But I could be wrong, they could start to give attention to the West more with 6, but I wouldn't get my hopes up just yet. Another thing I think is worth bringing up is that the core demographic of Persona is Japanese teenage boys. It would explain why we almost never get female protagonists. Yes, there is Maya and FemC, but FemC was an addition to a portable re-release that didn't even make it into Reload, and 2 had you play as both Tatsuya and Maya instead of picking between the 2. And every character poll they do always has the protagonist as number 1, because once again, they're just like me for real. Whenever talks about adult Persona comes up, people are very quick to bring up that an adult Persona game was already made in the form of Eternal Punishment, and so there's no reason why they can't do it again. First off, that is a very good point, thank you for bringing it up, gold star, kiss on the cheek. Secondly, I think there's one major catch people fail to realize when they bring up Eternal Punishment. Persona 2 is special in the fact that it is a duology. There is Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment. Unlike the typical Persona releases, these 2 are direct sequels that continue a story. Yes, Eternal Punishment does feature adult characters, but you need to remember it's a sequel to Innocent Sin, which takes place in high school. Eternal Punishment isn't a standalone Persona title with an adult cast. It started out as every Persona game does, with a high school. Now, I can absolutely see them doing something like this again, with a direct sequel being made with the original cast as adults now. To be honest, I am shocked we haven't gotten Persona 5 2 yet, where the Phantom Thieves are adults. As ridiculous as that would be, you bet your ass I would play a Persona 5 sequel, though I guess it kind of already exists with Strikers, doesn't it? At least without the adult aspect. The point is, I don't think we will ever get a main entry standalone Persona title of adult main characters. The current Persona, as we know it, is too much of a winning formula, and I don't see them deviating that for a long time. One last thing to mention, and to be honest, this might just be one of the biggest reasons that no one ever thinks about, is that if Atlus were to ever make an adult Persona game, then they wouldn't be able to make iconic and easily recognizable school uniforms that can be used to sell merch. The school uniforms are probably just as important as the mascot characters in terms of brand recognition and marketing, and removing that aspect could lose them a lot of money, and as far as I know, colleges don't have uniforms. So that's why we probably won't see an adult Persona game for a long time. Not saying it'll never happen, and this isn't me saying I would hate an adult Persona game. I would still absolutely play it and probably enjoy it just as much as the others, but given how popular the current state of Persona is, it just seems very unlikely. I could see Atlus doing another Eternal Punishment at some point, and I think that would be pretty cool and far more likely. Now this is the part where I tell you to like and subscribe or I'll depaw my cat Crow. Don't worry, he's an asshole, he deserves it.